Chidanandji, you can start.
Hope my video and audio are clear.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, friends. Namaste, everybody. We are here again this Thursday evening, June 22. And our topic is another something very profound, but at the same time very relevant to daily life, to practically every moment of our living. As every one of us knows, most of the topics, if not all the topics that we discuss here, are related to our psychological life. Psychological life is what we make of our life through thinking. I see somebody having an expensive car and if I appreciate the beauty of the car, if I appreciate the elegance, if you appreciate the features of the car, all that is not psychological. Let's make it once more very clear. When does an issue become psychological? You have a car, I say you are my friend, but when I see your car, which you have newly bought, and I notice that it is far superior to the one that I possess. Let's say I get jealous, I get envious, and that's where you disturb the hornet's nest. Rather, I disturb the hornet's nest. Psychology springs into action. All kinds of thoughts rise in my mind of the nature of comparison. I look at you who has come to show the new car to me, and I say, this friend of mine joined a company 5 years after I did. He is junior to me. In fact, in college days, he was 3 years junior to me. He used to come to ask me for some doubts in this or that subject. And many memories. Memories by themselves are not psychological. They don't have to be. But in the medium of memories, now begins the crux of the matter. I place my friend, I place you on a certain level, I place myself on a certain other level. I think I am superior to you, and part of my mind says, since I am superior to you, I should be having a better car than what you have. Please note, psychological memory, psychological thinking is not really all that complicated. We are constantly in the midst of it. And most importantly, psychological thoughts, psychological movement revolves around the I. I am senior, you are junior. I am superior, you are inferior. I have a greater background than you have. I have a smaller car and you have a big one. Having a less expensive car, today I feel I have shrunk. I have become small. All this, the mystics and saints and sages say is, in Hindi you have a nice word for it, bakwas. Bakwas. Bakwas means, I don't know what is the right English word for it. It is unnecessary, wild thinking, almost like gossip. Really speaking, because you have a bigger car and I have a smaller car, there is no need to judge you as more accomplished and judge myself as less accomplished, you as more blessed or fortunate, and I as less blessed, less fortunate, if not pitiable. There's no need really. Therefore, someone like Krishnamurti, whom we lovingly call Krishnaji, says, watch the movement of the self. The little self constantly rises and falls, vibrates, oscillates, vacillates, shudders, and at times feels elated. If you come with a car which is inferior to mine in terms of its features, its cost, etc., then openly or secretly I may feel elated. I have such a wonderful car. This fellow is yet to get in his life a decent car. He has always been possessing these useless, models, etc. So, what is it that makes us superior or inferior? I am sitting in one of the guest rooms of Sri Ramana Maharshi's ashram in Tiruvannamalai this evening, and perhaps it is all the more appropriate to take a look at the structure of the I, the self, which is in popular literature called the ego. Please note in philosophical literature, the word ego stands for both sense of superiority and sense of inferiority. Sense of I am so fortunate, accomplished, blessed, etc., as well as a sense of oh, I have become such a fool. I have become the laughing stock of the whole town. I am really in trouble. Who and so on. Moment you judge yourself as more worthy or less worthy, etc., the self has raised its ugly head. Maharshi Ramana asked visitors to him to question, who am I? I will not go long into any light on Maharshi Ramana, but to say a couple of words autobiographically, I studied Vedanta for years under Swami Chinmayanandaji. That time when I tried to study Krishnamurti, it all went above my head. It is through and in between the study of Vedanta that I began to study Ramana Maharshi. And studying Ramana Maharshi helped me see things from a different angle of view, which is self inquiry. If somebody makes me envious, Maharshi Ramana's teachings help me ask myself, who is envious? I. And what is this I? Is it something absolute or is it the product of certain conditionings, certain memories, certain influences? It is through a certain appreciation of Ramana's self inquiry that one fine morning, so to say, there was an aha moment. All that Krishnaji was talking started becoming clear. So, bringing this digression to a close, I would say one sentence: self inquiry of Ramana Maharshi and self observation of J. Krishnamurti seem to be going hand in hand, if not identical. Maybe they are one expressed in two different ways. So, what is the connection of our this evening's topic? Aloneness, in which there is no isolation. What made me pick these particular words is a statement from Krishna ji. He says, a human being, if he transforms himself, becomes alone. But that aloneness is not isolation. It is a form of supreme intelligence. There are several aspects of this quote from Krishnamurti. This came to me over some WhatsApp some couple of days back. I believe it is in part 1, dialogue 4 of the wholeness of life. All right. A human being, if he transforms himself, so we need to think a little about what under the sun this transformation is. Then he becomes alone. That's our main topic, aloneness. And then Krishnaji hastens to add that aloneness is not isolation. And fourthly, there is this statement, it is a form of supreme intelligence. Enough food for thought, enough food for munching, biting. Hope we have not taken more on the plate than what we can bite. Let's try. What is this transformation? And what is the supreme intelligence? Let me put it this way. If I see your Mercedes car while I have a simple Maruti Swift or something, I notice your car is superior, mine is inferior. That's not a problem. The moment I envy you, this envy is the result of absence of intelligence. If there were to be supreme intelligence, I will appreciate your car. I may even talk about trying to buy a car of that kind for myself, which is also fine. A sadhu doesn't have to keep away from cars, or a pious person, a religious person, that's the language in these circles. A person who is into self-inquiry doesn't have to keep away from gold, but what is important is the learning mind has to keep an eye on this intruding thought called envy. So, what is aloneness and how does or why should one come to aloneness when one is transformed? I would put it this way, transformation, which is the best thing that we may go for in life, is marked by seeing the falsity of either looking at myself as inferior or looking at you as superior, or on another occasion, looking at you as inferior and me as superior. This high, this low, these labels are actually the result of lack of intelligence. To see gold and to know the value of gold is one thing, but to put a label, this gold belongs to her, and not even 1/100th of that gold is with me. And how unfortunate I am. That is lack of intelligence. I must hasten to add that in lack of intelligence, psychological movement gets exhilarated, and in intelligence, that is more important. In intelligence, one does not become dull, not observing at all. Therefore, that is one reason where or why Krishnaji, while talking about the highest intelligence, supreme intelligence, and talking about great austerity, living in great simplicity, etc., at the same time, always appreciated art, music, beauty of nature. He even appreciated nice clothes, good shoes, and fast cars, etc. Annie Besant and others in the early years brought so many wonderful gifts to him when he lived in England, traveled in Europe, traveled in America. We read in his biography that he was actually fond of branded things. In his biography by Pupul Jaikar, I read on the last day in Chennai, when he flew to America and only ash came later on, his ashes returned. That day also, if I remember right, Pupulji has written about how he had a tie while he was all set to leave Vasant Vihar for airport in Chennai. He says something very appreciative about that tie. He was very fond of that tie. Probably he compliments somebody who had given him that tie, something like that. It's interesting that while generally the picture of a sadhu, a very religious, pious person is given as though that person has nothing to do with woman and gold, art and music, etc. The reality is those illumined ones, in fact, are fully observant. People like Swami Vivekananda, Swami Chinmayananda, and others, in fact, had a great eye for beauty. Therefore, they built institutions, they developed organization with a lot of aesthetics too. Go to any Ramakrishna Mission Center in your city, in Mumbai or Chennai or Belur Mutt in Kolkata, you will find things are so neat, so peaceful, the greenery, everything. To visit a Ramakrishna Mission Center and to visit a Krishnamurti Center would be an interesting exercise. We can probably identify some parallels, natural beauty, certain silence, certain cleanliness, certain order you will find in both. Then, of course, there will be certain differences. In Ramakrishna Mission, there would be some symbols and there would be certain, special value attached to Guru and scripture and Sri Ramakrishna, Sharada Devi, Vivekananda, and so on. In a K center, in sharp contrast, you would have to search for even a picture of Krishnamurti. In the whole campus, maybe at 2 or 3 places, there would be a picture of J. Krishnamurti. No idol, no statue, no arti, no burning incense. Those would be the differences. Put aside those differences, but the common part is beauty, appreciation, and so on. So, see, what is this transformation? To appreciate beauty, but without wanting to possess it. I see a wonderful gold ring on your ring finger, and my mind, thanks to some old conditioning, may say, ah, how I wish I had such a ring. Then self observation is seen. set in motion. If you have deeply appreciated Krishnaji's teachings or these teachings, which may come under the category of self-inquiry, definitely you will look at that thought. Aha, here goes my old mind, immediately following, appreciating this gold ring on my friend's finger. The whole mind is saying, how I wish I also had such a ring. Where is this I coming up? I want to possess, I want to own, and it is even better if I own and he doesn't. I want to have one upmanship and so on. This is called the movement of the self. So the falsity of it all, why do we call it false? Yeah, it's good to have a gold ring of certain beautiful design on your ring finger on the left hand or the right hand. But really, what is false about the whole matter is having that gold ring does not really enhance your value as a human being. You don't become a worthier human being. To be a worthy human being, it is a totally different matter. You have love in your heart, you have compassion in your heart, you have peace in your heart, you live in a certain orderly way, you are not thrown apart or you are not tossed up and down by sad memories or some anxieties for future, then that makes you very worthy. Wearing a gold ring which is extremely, sought after hardly contributes to your being worthy. 1,000 people may get jealous of you. That is their confusion. The truth of the matter is, with nothing against the gold ring, you may have a gold ring and you may even describe to your friends, see, this has, look at this design here and look at its uniqueness. Very fine. We already said there is place for music, for art, for aesthetics, for appreciation of nature, poetry, literature, you name it. There is place for all that in a well lived life. But the issue is if you value yourself in terms of being a better human being, and in some other time you look at yourself as a lower person, there is a confusion in your mind. And alas, what we are now talking about is a very serious problem because the entire world is suffering from comparison, from labels of success, failure, accomplished, and all this. Young boys and girls sometimes commit suicide. Many elderly people go into depression because this psychological label is put upon themselves by themselves, or others say, sometimes parents themselves say to their two sons. To one son, they say, we are proud of you. You made millions. To another son, they say, we are so disappointed with you. Parents are confused. They don't have broad mindedness. So, transformation is nothing but seeing through this mischief of the little self and letting go of those judgments. Now, how do we become alone? Deep transformation makes you alone, it is said. Alone is in the sense of you find there is hardly anyone who shares your outlook. You see that even those who are close to you do not value the absence of egoism in you. In fact, if they get a chance, they will tell you. They will tell you, you know what, you have so much wisdom. You should actually become very popular in the whole world. We will set up your lectures in Bombay and Madras, Delhi and Tokyo, New York and London. You seem to have so much of spiritual, maturity. You should write a couple of books and it will sell like. See, they are already pursuing popularity. And if you don't show interest in publishing books, becoming popular, making money, going around the world, etc., they sympathize, they pity you. Then you feel alone. You are celebrating the letting go of egoism, and they wish you were more practical. They say, our friend is wise, but we wish he was a little practical. He has messed up his life. His so called spirituality has ruined him, like that they talk. So you will feel quite alone. Leave alone common people, so called common people. Some other gurus also may say, you must learn from us. I built a big ashram. I have disciples in many countries. You also can be like that. I'll tell you some tips. So called gurus also will confuse you. You feel so alone. Alone meaning you feel left out. But then comes the last part of the topic. There is no isolation. In ordinary loneliness, you feel isolated. What's the difference? I need not explain it in any words. In loneliness, you actually desire people to be with you, people to talk to you, people to agree with you. You want to agree with people to entertain you, people to adore you, people to tell you how good you were to them, how nice you are. You are all the time expecting. That is loneliness. And when that doesn't happen, all these kind of desired interactions, memories work havoc. You sit by a bench, let's say facing a lake, memory comes along. There was a time when I used to be with her, with him, and people walking by would say, hello, good evening, how are you? And so on. I used to as a very popular figure. Today I'm sitting here on the bench. A lot of people are in this park. Nobody even looks at us. Nobody questions, asks me how I am. So the memory. I wish I had somebody coming to me for an autograph or these days for a selfie. I wish somebody came up to me and would ask, are you not that famous writer, that famous professor, the famous. I wish somebody would pay attention to me, but no one is caring for me. See, thought is at work. Otherwise, sitting on the bench, looking at the lake where some ducks are beautifully swimming, pleasant wind is blowing, and some dry leaves are falling from the trees. It's heaven on earth. But when psychological movement does its work, that heaven on earth becomes a hell. Then you feel isolated. You feel people talking to each other, and you say, why aren't they not talking to me? This me comes up. You feel isolated. Please see, it is thoughts which create a sense of I am not wanted, I am not in demand, I am left down, left out, left behind. So that really in the aloneness, since you have seen through the falsity of such an I, whether people talk to you or do not, there is a certain peace, unconditional peace. Therefore, there is no isolation. And the last part in Krishnaji's statement, there is supreme intelligence in this. That need not be said again, for we said the letting go of wanting popularity, wanting superiority, wanting some special place, etc., which is very different from wanting good health. Health is a basic need. If you are hungry and you want some food, that's not psychological, it's biological. If it's cold, and you wish, oh, I wish I had a sweater. I wish I had a muffler. And you should not think this is ego talking. There's no ego there. You feel cold, you want a muffler, which is clean, neat, maybe a little pretty also. Aesthetics is not an issue. So, basic biological, genuine needs of human life are to be distinguished from what is induced by conditionings, and all this has to be found out by the operation of intelligence. So rightly, Krishnaji has said, let me read that quote once more and then close. A human being, if he transforms himself, becomes alone, but that aloneness is not isolation. It is a form of supreme intelligence. Let me pause here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for such an informative lecture. May I request Harshad sir to say something on this? Harshad sir.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yeah.
There is no electricity here, and I had some problem with the Zoom also initially. But I listened most of what Chidanandji spoke, and Chidanandji is equating aloneness with transformation, and said that only when there is a transformation, there is a real freedom, then a person feels alone, but not isolated. Um, but I think one doesn't need to be transformed. One can be alone and very happy. And this is something we all need to learn when we are young, to enjoy being alone and physically, but much more aloneness psychologically. That means we become very clear about, we can see things clearly. Then there is a psychological aloneness, and we can understand what other people are talking, and we can see very quickly when we listen to somebody. So aloneness is very, very important because when people don't have aloneness, because to be alone, one needs a goodness and love. And without that, a person cannot enjoy being alone. Only when there is a love, which is not attachment, and love for nature, good thoughts, good feelings, then aloneness is a blessing. And a lot of happiness comes from within in being alone. And it is not isolation. One can also be with people, and one can be alone. And at least if I speak for myself, I feel very, very happy to be alone early in the morning and look at the nature, listen to the birds, and very good thoughts and feelings come. And I touch the trees and remember the people who have come in my life, and who had been a source of happiness. But happiness comes from within when we are really psychologically alone. One can love many, many people, but without attachment. And that is a real richness. So aloneness is a blessing. And one needs to learn aloneness when we are young. Because what happens that many people, they are afraid to be alone physically. And I have seen even in young people, like students, if they are alone physically, they begin to feel lonely. It is because there is no richness within oneself. But when you are physically alone and there is a richness in you, good thoughts, good feelings, then you enjoy being alone. So, uh, if we don't learn to be alone, then what happens that as we grow older, and many people whom we know, they die. And if you are married, you are a husband and your wife dies, and then the children, they grow up and they have their own life. So I have seen that many old people, they feel very lonely, and and they remember the things, bad things which happen to them, and they complain about the world, about their family, and sometimes they are sent to old people's house, and they are not very happy. So it is very, very important when we are young to learn to be alone, not only physically, but also psychologically. And only when we are alone, we can really feel oneness with nature, with other people. And the root meaning of the word alone, it means all in one. So that oneness is a real blessing. And it reminds me of one song which says that Ladakpan khel mein khoya, jawani nind bar soya, बुढ़ापा देखकर रोया वही किस्सा पुराना है. So if we don't learn to be alone when we are young, to be alone and to be happy, then life becomes very, very unhappy in old age if we don't learn how to be alone. And if we know how to be alone, then we can really create a lot of goodness, happiness, and without doing anything, we can be really happy. So, aloneness, physically as well as psychologically, is a blessing. Okay, I have said enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Pradeep ji, please unmute and say. Pradeep ji, please unmute and say.
Yes, I think I am. It's audible.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Today's time is little restricted, so I will just start with a statement by JK. Very important for me. Just a minute, let me. So that is, he said, mind can never know aloneness. A very powerful statement. Mind can never know aloneness. I think we all are using minds. Today's topic is also the product of mind being discussed within a field of mind. So mind is very much there. This is what I see. I don't have to believe it because I see that at least I am using my mind. So mind can never know aloneness. That which is alone can never be the state of conflict. That is understandable. Harshad Bhai has made it pretty clear. So many things. That aloneness in a garden and all that, all in one and everything. So in a nutshell, this state of aloneness necessitates freedom from the past. So otherness of the self is at its minimum. So this is how I have understood. Loneliness, we all know. We are all self-centered people with various degrees. We need not feel offended when we realize that we are self-centered. And then He said, aloneness is beauty, innocence, creative. Aloneness is freshness. Of course, Harshadji was talking about that this should be known to the young generation, how to be alone. Of course, you can never teach anyone to be alone. By nature, we are like this. And if you do, he said, if you know how to be alone, this is also part, it's not a part of knowledge. As I have understood. Now, how will I receive this aloneness? You see, because aloneness is definitely, it's very lucrative, very nice, very beautiful. Beauty is there, everything is there. It was earlier, it was equated with transformation also. So this, to me, this journey is probably back to being the source, the non-dual state, probably. This is all what I wanted to share. Thank you very much. Anything from Chidanandji, if he responds, or Harshad Bhai, anyone, if at all, if at all.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. Chidanand sir, please. You have got 5
I
minutes
don't
left.
have anything to say really. I fully appreciate what
Yeah.
Pradeep ji shared with us. And referring to what Harshad ji shared, yes, he began saying one doesn't have to connect transformation with being alone. I appreciate that point also because our mind tends to go into high ideals, some kind of total transformation and so on. One doesn't have to bring a picture of something out of the way. Rather, especially in this subject, we should keep away visualization, imagination, some ideal, how somebody was and how we got to be and all that. Rather gently, like a simple child, we should just observe what is. And if we stay with what is, the necessary thing, the change will take place. If we imagine a change and if we get anxious, when will we change and when will I have that aha moment and so on, and that very, hoping for something to happen can spoil the whole show. So in that spirit, I fully appreciate that point without connecting to transformation. Alone, stay alone, be alone. Life has brought such a situation, and if we are with what is, there will be no problem. Yeah.
Thank you. Harshad sir, would you please like to comment on it?
Yes, I like to say that when I was teacher here in Rishi Valley, one new student, he joined the school and his name was Vivekanand. Maybe his father was interested in Vivekanand, and this boy had a habit of going for a walk alone, and he enjoyed walking alone. But his classmates, they started making fun of him and saying that this boy has some mental problem, and that is why he is walking alone. And so this boy was affected by their criticism, and he started joining the group, and he became like any other student. So I see that even in young student, there is a fear of being alone, and they always like to walk with other students and talk about something which is not very good. But when a student walks alone, maybe he can observe the trees, can observe the birds, and really enjoy being uh, with nature. And that is lacking, I find, in young people that they feel very lonely when they are alone, and they like to escape from loneliness. And also even old people, they like to escape from loneliness by watching some TV program or talking on telephone. So as long as we escape from loneliness, we cannot come to this aloneness, which is a wonderful thing. And one lady had come to Krishnaji and she was feeling very lonely. And she said that she tried to escape from loneliness by doing many things, but the loneliness remained with her. So Krishnaji says, it's good that you are not able to escape. And when you are able to look, don't even call it loneliness, just observe the feeling. Because when you call it loneliness, then you will feel actually lonely. But watch whatever is happening without naming it. And so people who don't escape from loneliness, but really begin to understand what is behind it, then there is a freedom from loneliness. And when come to aloneness, then all the problems are solved, I feel, because most of the problems happen in relationship with people in the form of conflict. And somebody said the tragedy of a human being is that they cannot live alone happily, and they cannot live with other people also happily. So when a person learns to be alone and happy, then all problems are solved, and then we can also live with people, other people also. So this is what I have to say, that one should not escape from loneliness. Every human being goes through it, but there is the possibility of understanding it and being free from it. Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Arun Partha, you can continue.
Yeah. So only one question. Actually, Krishnaji, he normally speaks about understanding oneself in relationship, right? So here we are speaking about aloneness. So aloneness is being kind of separate yourself and all that. So isn't that conflict in his statement? Because to understand oneself, he mentions relationships. So how do we understand this? I'm not getting it.
Yeah, may I try to reply?
Yes, sir.
It's something like how, in my lecture, I said, we may have something made of gold, we may appreciate it, we may have a nice car with us, we may have a beautiful house, and yet in this wisdom, we do not think of ourselves as superior for having this big house and so on. We are happy enjoying the big house, but we don't allow our mind to play much mischief. Likewise, now coming to your point, in relationship, there is learning, there is joy, and when we relate, when we welcome people to our fold, and if for some reason they leave, we say, all right, we give them the freedom to leave. In the amidst all these things, just think of it. If we do not allow some kind of attachment, insistence, etc., to rise in us, then there is aloneness in the midst of relationships. I relate to you and I become possessive, then aloneness is gone. I relate to you, I have many friends, but with almost every friend I have an issue, I'm jealous of this person, I pity that person, and I secretly have some other judgment about some other person, then there is no aloneness. So being related to people and while learning also goes on, if we are uh, into this inquiry, then there is a letting go of judgmentalism. So let me sum up my answer. Relationship where judgmentalism is avoided brings to us aloneness in the midst of company. Aloneness doesn't have to be literally being alone, being away. Aloneness is more a certain quality of how you feel about yourself. Would
But normally they
Harshadji
won't
want to
accept
add
it.
something?
Chidanandji,
Normally they
sir.
won't accept it.
Chidanandji, sir.
Ah.
Sir, you have to leave. So it is already.
Actually, I can stay for 5 more minutes, no problem. I would like to hear Harshadji and Arun wanted to say something.
Yeah,
Before
actually, I
that?
was telling like relationships would not entertain that when you are completely, like in a relationship, whoever it is, father, mother, they won't
No,
like it,
that's
right?
the art. Yeah, that's the skill. That's the art. When you and I developed that skill, thanks to understanding some of these very well, even when being related, it is said, for example, Krishnaji used to address, let's say, 2,000, 3,000 people. Later, in a city like Chennai or someplace, he would just go for a walk. And people who have walked with him have said they could feel that he was walking away, and it didn't seem that he had given the lecture. He was able to empty himself. He was walking as though he had not addressed 2,000 people. Whereas most of us, suppose I get an audience of 2,000 people in some city, it will be a hangover with me for next 48 hours, if not more. I openly tell, or without telling openly, I will carry that feeling. Today I had such a wow, elite, large audience to me, and so on. So the presence physically of people around doesn't have to create a psychological residue in the mind. Harish wanted to say something?
Yes, namaskar. Yeah. Well, uh, it reminds me of Krishnji saying, Krishnji often emphasized, you are not individual. Of course, we are an individual, which is a noun in a certain situation, but we are not individual in the sense Krishnji reminded us that a true individual is being indivisible. So I just thought being truly psychologically alone is what Harshad Parekh said, all one. So there is no inward poverty. There is a sense of affluence, richness for no reason. So being psychologically alone is one thing, but feeling alone is totally different. And as Krishnji has said, a truly humble person does not know that he is humble. Same way, someone who is truly alone does not know that he is alone. If he is aware of his aloneness, that means he is somehow or other feeling lonely and he is seeking the company of others. And it takes me to the next question of what somebody, Anandji or somebody said. Krishnji has taught us to understand ourselves in relationship, but here is a question of aloneness. So isn't there is a contradiction? To me, there isn't any contradiction, because when Krishnji has used one adjective, aching loneliness. So feeling alone is like being lonely. So when I feel lonely, what do? I seek the company of others. Now, if a certain amount of self-observation or self-awareness is taking roots in me, I would realize that I am seeking the company of others, not because I like love to be related, because I want to utilize others to kill my own loneliness, which is of course exploitation. Of course, there is no denying the fact that you are not harming someone unless you force someone that no, you forget all your important business and jobs and join me. So then there also there is an element of understanding myself in relationship, which means I have absolutely no relationship maybe with my son, daughter, wife, neighbor, or someone. I am helping them kill their loneliness, and they are helping me get over my own loneliness. So it's like that. Thank you.
Pradeep ji, please.
Just a sentence, because I think Parthaji is still may not be that satisfied. I don't know. Its question is, our very survival is based on relationship. Our very survival, whatever you're thinking about survival, existence, whatever it may be, it is purely based on relationship with people and things around. So where is the question of questioning a relationship as something different than with reference to aloneness? Loneliness, of course, is self-created. If you have a very narrow, if you have a comfort zone with absolute, you have become very narrow, then naturally there is every chance that you will feel this loneliness. But otherwise, relationship, there is no, my life is relationship only. What else is there? Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, there is a sentence of Krishnaji says, to be is to be related. That means we cannot exist without relationship. And but the question is, what is the quality of that relationship? Because people can live together in a relationship and they may be continuously fighting with each other, or there is a relationship in which people feel very happy to be together and understand each other. Because I remember one psychologist and his wife had talked with me in Chennai, and though they both were very highly educated, very articulate people, but they had lots of problems living together as a husband and wife. So we can be with other people and yet we don't learn about real, because every problem which we face in relationship, whether it is anger or fear or jealousy, it is an opportunity to learn about ourselves. So, but if we are so much occupied with our own problems, then we don't learn. To learn something from relationship, it requires some kind of sensitivity and ability to look inward to see from where these problems are arising. And generally, our problems comes because we don't understand ourselves clearly, and we demand a lot from other human beings, and the other human beings may not be able to give us what we want, and so there will be a problem. So there is no learning. So learning happens when we are really alert to what is happening within us, and we have a real feeling that we want to live very happy. We don't want to keep on fighting with somebody and creating problem, because many people live like that. They continue to fight and still continue to live together because they are afraid of being lonely. So many times a wife may not like the husband, even the husband may be very uh, violent to the wife, and even then the wife doesn't want to leave the husband because she is afraid to go and live all by herself. So to understand in relationship is possible only when we are sensitive and we have the ability to look inward and really go to the root of the problem. So relationship is very much important learning, but many times it may not help if we are not open to learn from the relationship. Okay, thank you.
If there is anyone to say something, otherwise I will close it.
Jain sir, I have written one chat,
Yeah, I have read that.
and that is the basic thing which
Yeah,
has to
yeah.
be understood when one is going for the
It's not clear.
relationship and all that.
Please speak a bit loud, sir.
Understand dependencies in the life and relationship. That is a very important issue. And
Yeah.
unless one understands the dependency of him, either physically or monetarily or psychologically, he will not be able to move from loneliness to aloneness.
Yeah.
As JK has also said, one has to move from loneliness to aloneness. One has to understand that he is feeling lonely, and he has to understand the psychological structure and fact of him, and he has to move ahead. Is my
Yeah.
voice clear, Jensen?
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
it is clear.
Yeah.
Now it is clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Harshad sir, would you please make a comment over it?
Yes, it reminds me of one old song of Mukesh. Chal akela, tera mela पीछे छूटा राही, चल अकेला, तेरा कोई साथ न दे, तो खुद से प्रीत जोड़ ले. So there are beautiful songs, and Ekla Chalo Re, Tagore song, and this shows the beauty of being alone. And a person can be alone and happy only when he has what is called love and goodness. Without love and goodness, a person, if he's alone, will feel lonely. But if there is love and goodness, aloneness is a blessing. And in that blessing, many creative things can happen in being alone. And so I feel that Krishnaji learned a lot by walking alone in nature and observing his own mind and observing in nature. Similarly, I think Tagore also learned a lot by observing nature, and he was very sensitive and very creative. So aloneness is a blessing, and one needs to learn to be alone and happy when we are young. Okay, thank you.
Ravi Kaushal, please unmute and say. Ravi, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So today's topic is aloneness. So I'm seeing that is there really any aloneness actually? We are all related, and I don't feel that aloneness not in terms of the one chal akela type, not in that terms. My voice is clear, sir?
Yeah.
Your
Clear.
voice is coming clear.
Okay. So in that terms, I don't think that is the meaning of aloneness. Being alone. I always feel that aloneness means that we are related and we are free in relationship. So that is the one thing I see. And I see that the mind which wants to be alone can never be alone. So it is not the question that what is aloneness. The question is that what is that thing? The question is what aloneness is not. Can we see that? That is the thing. So that many nice people says here that the dependency is one thing in relationship. If there is a dependency, that mind doesn't know what aloneness is. So aloneness means a kind of a humble person, which is actually related and still alone, not in terms of akela. So that thing is one I'm saying, and that what aloneness is not. That dependency is one thing, and the fear of loneliness is one thing, and that the escape, and because of the fear that there is escape, and if there is attachment, many people said that very beautifully. That if there is attachment, that aloneness, that mind cannot touch that aloneness, and the fear of being, there is a fear of being nothing, absolutely nothing. I think that absolute nothing is aloneness. But that absolute nothing is not like, that is not related. That is, I say in love, there is a connection and freedom goes together. So that and
Even
okay, sir, I'm done. Okay, thank you.
Harshad sir, would you please explain this, what he said?
No, I did not understand much about what he said.
Yeah.
And he says we should discuss what aloneness is not. When there is no aloneness, then I would say maybe there is a kind of loneliness. But aloneness is, if we really feel very happy to be alone, then we can talk about ourselves. Krishnamurti was called the sage who walked alone. He enjoyed walking alone, of course, physically also, but psychologically he was alone too. And that means he did not rely on the opinion of other people, but he could see for himself. So that kind of intelligence to see what is true, that also we can call a kind of psychological aloneness. And that is also very important, because if we are not clear, we will be affected by other people's opinion. Just like I told about that boy who was walking alone, but he got affected by the criticism of his classmates, and so he joined the group. And that is not aloneness. So a psychological aloneness is very, very important. And when there is a psychological aloneness, physical aloneness also become a blessing. Okay, so I have finished. Thank you.
Ravi, still you wanted to clear it?
No, it's not that I want to clear it. I see that what aloneness is not is enough. Not to conclude what aloneness is. If you know what aloneness is, then I think that is an image. So that is one thing. And if there is image, there is judgment, and all that things keep on. The pattern is still there. So that is one thing. So that thing that if there is image, aloneness. What does aloneness in that term? Aloneness when one person think freely out of the free from the impact of what other things. So that is the thing. How to think freely. So that aloneness is. I think that aloneness is one thing. In that term, I can say that. But I always feel that the relation because life is in relationship. So even if we don't see anybody physically, we don't met any. But there is no gap, or there is no separation kind of thing. So that's
Thank
one
you,
thing.
Ravi.
So
Thank you,
thank you,
Ravi.
sir.
Thank you, Ravi.
Even Sushilji,
Thanks,
even-
Ravi.
even
Ravi,
Thank you, sir.
let Pradeep sir say something, please.
just one sentence
Just he wanted to say a word or something.
About Tagore's Ekla Cholo. Harshad Bhai talked about Tagore's Ekla Cholo. That also is a little interesting in the sense, because he says जोदी तोर दाक्षुने केउ ना आशे. अगर आपकी बात सुन के कोई नहीं आ रहा, तो बे एकला चलो.
Right.
You see,
Yes.
that is the beauty. जोदी तोर दाक्षुने केउ ना आशे, तो बे एकला चलो. So that is that. Just part of game. Thank you.
Complete in oneself.
Thank you. You wanted to say, Modak, something?
No, nothing, sir.
Nothing. Pradeep sir, is anything left?
Some more time is left.
No, time is already given
Pradeep
was
ji,
7. We have taken 18 minutes more.
You wanted
Pradeep
us
ji,
to...
can you translate that into English? I couldn't,
But
because
Harshad sir, if you wanted to conclude, please conclude.
I
No,
wish...
I would. Krishnaji says that aloneness is freedom from all motive. That is what he has said. And aloneness is very rich and complete. That means all in one. So, okay, I think I don't have to say much. Thank you.
Thank you.
just one question. Pradeep ji, can you translate that Tagore statement in English? I couldn't understand that. A little high Hindi.
Pradeep
What
ji,
is it?
translate it in English now.
Yeah.
It is simple. If nobody listens to you,
Huh.
Jodi Tor Dakshune, whatever you are saying, if nobody is listening to you, then you walk alone.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You see? And today we are missing Vagmare because time is there and Vagmare is not there. So that is what we are. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So that time should be given to Modak now.
Complete. I have said at least one sentence
Please
in this
say
particular
something
meeting.
and end it. Last words and end it. Modak, say something and end it.
Basically, I feel that when one feels complete in oneself, depending of others in relationship and understanding relationship and feeling complete in oneself, that is being alone. From moving from loneliness to aloneness, when one is not needing anything, although he may be needing something, but still he feels that he is complete in himself. That is a part of being alone. Let Harshad sir say one thing and then we will end this.
Okay, one sentence which comes from Krishnamurti. Only the alone can commune with that which is causeless, the immeasurable. So something very, very deep, that aloneness is something, a kind of clarity, independence, freedom to see things as they are. Okay, thank you.
Modak, now please close it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.